Mexico has a vast and rich history that spans millennia and includes several ethnic groups and cultures. Regrettably, a lot of people all around the world frequently ignore or forget Mexico's past. In this video, the history of Mexico is examined, along with the significance of remembering and respecting its past. It will examine the various civilizations, cultures, and historical developments that have impacted the nation over the course of its existence, as well as how Mexico's past continues to influence the country's present and future. People forget Mexican history. Many people think Mexico is native. Several individuals conflated the terms natives, indigenous, and post-colonial people. Some believe the Aztecs were the ancestors of the Mexican people. So who are the Aztecs, and who's who in Mexico? Understanding the nuanced differences between natives, indigenous people, and post-colonial people is crucial when analyzing Mexico's history. Although the terms native, indigenous, and post-colonial are frequently used interchangeably, they have several key distinctions. Native people are people who started in a specific region before colonizer explorers arrived. On the other side, indigenous people are those who are descended from some of the region's first settlers and typically share a language, culture, and religion. Those who are considered post-colonial are those whose ancestors lived in a colonized nation. According to popular belief, the Aztecs did not give rise to the Mexican people. The Aztecs were a native people who lived in central Mexico during at least the 14th to 16th centuries. They developed a complex and highly sophisticated culture, with a powerful empire ruling over large parts of Mexico until the Spanish conquest in 1521. The lion's share, if not all, of modern-day Mexican population, especially the main parts, is made up of a mix of only indigenous and post-colonial populations. Pre-colonial Mexico. The time before Europeans landed on the American continent is known as pre-colonial Mexico. Before the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors, this period lasted for many centuries. The Aztecs are one of the most notable and well-known pre-colonial civilizations in what is now Mexico. In 1810, adventurer and geographer Alexander von Humboldt used the term Aztecs to refer to the powerful Mesoamerican people who had built a vast empire in Mexico and who encountered the Spaniards in 1519, the inhabitants of this area. In 1843, with the publication of the work of William H. Prescott, it was adopted by most of the world, including 19th century Mexican scholars who considered it a way to distinguish people who lived there before conquest and after conquest. How were the Aztecs? The Aztecs did not exert supreme authority over their conquered territories. It was a discontinuous empire because not all dominated territories were connected. For example, some of the southern peripheral zones were not in direct contact with the center. The Aztec did not interfere in local affairs across the seas. Who conquered the Aztecs? Cortes. Cortes was a Spanish conqueror. He arrived in the early 1500s, helped conquer the Aztecs and Cubans, and established the New Spain colony. Cortes was part of the generation of Spanish explorers and conquistadors who began the first phase of the Spanish colonization of the Americas. Cortes co-conquered Cuba and led the conquest of the Aztec Empire and establishment of Spanish and Mexican regime. With Cortes's experience as an administrator, knowledge gained from many failed expeditions, and his impeccable rhetoric, he was able to gather 6 ships and 300 men within a month. Conquest of Mexico. Cortes's military experience was almost non-existent, but he proved to be an effective leader of his small army and won early victories over the coastal indigenous Indians. Then he proceeded to Tabasco, where he was met with resistance but won a battle against the natives. He took 20 what they call mestizo women, which is a word to describe a mixed-race person, or a person who is culturally European even though their ancestors are not, i.e. a colonizer's child with a native, from the vanquished natives, and he converted them to Christianity. Cortes, in a premeditated effort to instill fear upon the Aztecs waiting for him at Tenochtitlan, the Aztecs' main city. By the time the Spaniards arrived in Tenochtitlan, the Spaniards had a large army. On November 8, 1519, they were received by the leader of the Aztec Empire, Moctezuma II. The Aztecs gave lavish gifts of gold to the Spaniards, which, rather than making them less hostile, it instead excited their ambitions for plunder. Cortes decided to take Moctezuma as a hostage in his palace, indirectly ruling through him. Cortes ruled the Aztecs for some time and hosted a feast on May 22, 1520, in the Aztecs' capital Tenochtitlan to celebrate a holiday. But after the festivities had started, Spaniards interrupted the celebration, killing all the Aztec warriors and noblemen who were celebrating inside the Great Temple. The few who managed to escape the massacre by climbing over the walls informed the community of the Spaniards' atrocity. In retaliation, the Aztecs elected a new leader and laid siege to the Spanish compound where their leader was still being held captive. The Aztecs ran Cortes and the Spaniards out of their country, and this day would later be recognized as La Noche Triste, the Night of Sorrows, literally, the sad night. Cortes came back with more Spaniard reinforcements, and after about a year more of battles, successfully conquered the Aztec Empire. Almost all Aztecs were wiped out, and the remaining survivors were only young women and very young children used for slavery and breeding. Due to the wholesale slaughter after the campaign and the destruction of Aztec culture, some scholars have likened the siege to a genocide. Aftermath. It is widely acknowledged that Cortez's mestizo supporters, who may have totaled 200,000 throughout the three-year conquest, were crucial to his triumph. The most significant European metropolis in the Americas at the time, Cortes was chosen ruler of New Spain and officially established Mexico by creating and governing Mexico City. Cortes oversaw the establishment of a system of enslavement for non-Christians. Mexico is one of the most beautiful countries in the world today. Cortes, the Spaniards, and his mestizo allies continued to control the country into old age. You now understand how your Spanish ancestors arrived here and established their civilization